Hey, what's up? What's up, everybody? This is Jeff from BKJMAC TV, and this is the BKJMAC Podcast Experience, Season 2, Episode 48. And today, we're bringing you a unique episode. This is a very unique episode. This is about a movie that came out over 30 years ago. Basically, this movie is called Soul Man. Yes, Soul Man. And basically, it was I want to say the word racist, but it had racial propaganda all over it. And it offended a young director out of Brooklyn, out of Fort Greene. His name, Spike Lee. And basically, he boycotted the movie. He didn't watch it. He saw the trailer of it, and he boycotted the movie and basically created public backlash for it, because the movie, basically, the lead is a white kid that needs to go to college, and apparently affirmative action, I don't know, I think it's blocking him. So he says, oh, maybe if I turn myself black, then I'll get admission to the college. So he uses blackface and basically turns himself black, and he gets into the college. And yeah, we all know blackface has been prominent in use since the early 1900s, late 1800s into the 1900s. The practice is grossly offended to the black community, and to see this take shape in the 1980s was wild and crazy. But I guess the director had some type of point of view. But let's go into the movie. Let's go into the review about it. This article was written by Kevin Polloway. This was a few years ago, but this is interesting. I don't think a lot of people know about this movie, and I wanted to bring it into the conscious mind of now. So he starts off the article. Rather, it's the effects of a continuity, progressing society, or the more diabolical wrath of so-called cancel culture. There have been countless movies from decades past, fair or not, being re-scrutinized through a contemporary lens in recent years. And then there's the case of 1986's Soul Man. Released in theaters 35 years ago today, the comedy about a rich white law student, C. Thomas Howell, who poses as a black man in order to qualify for a scholarship to Harvard, was canceled almost immediately after its release. Yes, it was canceled immediately after its release because it was grossly racially offensive to the black community. A white man, a white law student, dressed in blackface. Almost, that is, the film reportedly made for a budget of $4.5 million and distributed by New World Pictures, hauled in $35 million at the U.S. box office, making it a commercial success that outgrossed other popular films that year like Wildcats, Three Amigos, Iron Eagle, Spies Like Us, FX, Flight of the Navigator, and Children of a Lesser God. Still, the blowback was quick. Here was a film that's main character Mark Watson Howell wore blackface throughout, taking tanning pills to darken his face, wearing an afro wig, and putting on a one-man minstrel show. Watson was the 80s cinematic equivalent of disgraced former college instructor and spoken NAACP chapter president Rachel Dolezal. Upon its release, the NAACP rallied against it. Students at UCLA protested outside of a theater screening it. We find the Al Jolson-like portrayal of the main character offensive and They found the character offensive and disgusting. wrote the university's Black American Law Students Association, referencing the infamous blackface performer and star of The Jazz Singer, and a young filmmaker named Spike Lee, who was just breaking out with his feature directorial debut, She's Gotta Have It. Yes, Spike Lee. And put it on blast during an uncomfortable appearance on the Dick Cavett show. Dick Cavett was a different man at that time. He said some things that were crazy about the black community, but I guess he considered himself a friend of the black community. I'm just saying. The whole premise is that he's passing as black, and it's so phony. That means all the black people in the movie are idiots. That they could think that this guy is black, said Lee, who had watched clips from the movie, but refused to see it in full. So it's like I mentioned earlier, he saw a bunch of clips of the movie, Mr. Lee, and he was like, nah, I'm not watching this. This is strictly garbage. I'm not watching this. Even though this garbage movie made $35 million, made more than its budget of $4.5 million. It was just, simply put, ridiculous. And it kind of shows what America was thinking around this time, going to watch a crap like that in the movie theater. They're trying to pass it off as an attack on racism. I really don't see it that way. That's not funny to me. Indeed, Soul Man was positioned by its creators as exactly that, a well-intentional comedy that teaches a white man he can't understand racism until he's the one being discriminated against. A comedy with heart and soul. Read the tagline for the film, written by Carol Black, creator of future TV shows The Wonder Years and Ellen, and directed by Steve Miner. The poster's tagline was not nearly as bad as the trailers. He didn't give it up. He didn't give up. He got down. It was just ridiculous when you hear that tagline. A white man donning blackface is taboo. Conversations over. You can't win, said Howell. But our intentions were pure. We wanted to make a funny movie that had a message about racism. It used comedy as a device to expose sexual stereotyping. I think Soul Man uses it to exploit racial stereotyping, said producer Steve Tosh, who compared the film's plot, the 1982 favorite Tootsie, in which Dustin Hoffman dresses up as a woman to advance his career, and whom Lee mentioned called him after he began publicly putting the movie on blast in 1986. But let's remember the social-political climate of the mid-1980s. The Reaganomics era was in full bloom, promising a trickle-down effect to low-income families that never came, and ultimately widened the wealth gap between white and black Americans. Affirmative action, which Mark Watson exploits in the film, despite coming from a family of extreme wealth and white privilege, was as hot button an issue as they come, a domestic program Reagan openly opposed. It's really an attack on affirmative action, Lee told Cavett during his talk show appearance. How rich, then, that Soul Man happened to feature the president's son, Ron Reagan, in a minor role in a supporting cast that also included Ray Don Chung, Leslie Nielsen, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and perhaps most perplexing, James Earl Jones. The Reagans enjoyed the film and especially enjoyed seeing their son Ron. A White House spokesman said after President Reagan and First Lady Nancy Reagan screened the film at Camp David. No matter its intentions, Soul Man remains an indefensible disaster to many. So, when they watched the movie at Camp David, they said they enjoyed it. They enjoyed seeing their son Ron in the movie, but they enjoyed the film. Usually when you hear something of that stereotype, it reminds you of Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith. And when Woodrow Wilson screened at the White House, he enjoyed it. It's like lightning in a bottle or something like that, which was crazy. So to hear something like that was just wild. I definitely want to know more information about it. I'm not going to assume of that's the full case with the Reagans when it came to this movie, but we'll see about that. No matter its intentions, Soul Man remains an indefensible disaster to many. Consider just a few cringe-worthy moments like the dinner sequence where, through the grooves of white characters' points of view, Howell also imitates a sex-craved savage who tears the blouse of a woman to the sounds of African tribal music. A sex-craved prince and a sex-craved jive-talking pimp sucking down watermelon. It's no wonder the film was canceled almost immediately, and decades before blackface episodes would come back to bite the likes of celebrities Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Paula Deen, and Megyn Kelly, and politicians Virginia Governor Ralph Newsom and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Howell and Chung, who married in 1989 after meeting on the film but divorced in 1990, remain supporters of the film well into the new millennium. This isn't a movie that should be considered irresponsible on any level. This is a movie that is quite the opposite from me, Howell told the AV Club in 2013. I think it's really an innocent movie with a very powerful message, and it's an important part of my life. I'm proud of the performance, and I'm proud of the people that were in it. The internet would disagree. YouTube essays on the film come with headers like, "Is this the worst comedy of the 80s? Soul Man was insensitive as hell and the most offensive movie ever." Chung, especially, has remained defiant about the film, and there's a single person she blames for his swift and lasting downfall. It was only controversial because Spike Lee made a thing of it, the actress said in a 2016 interview with The Wrap. He's never seen the movie and he just jumped all over it. He was just starting and pulling everything down in his wake. If you watch the movie, it's really making white people look stupid. Fueled by Lee or not, it's almost impressive how swiftly Soul Man met its downfall. This was decades before John Hughes movies were being reevaluated for not aging well, and Green Book, a film about a gay black pianist touring the 1960s Deep South, was instantly being called problematic, or at least dated, upon its release. Albert on its way to winning Best Picture at the Oscars. Still, don't give 1986 too much credit. 4 weeks after Soul Man's premiere came a re-release of Song of the South, long considered Disney's most racist movie and one of the most infamously offensive films of all time. Its re-release grossed over $17 million in the US box office. And understandably, when you hear something like that, especially coming from Disney, it shows you how racist and how divided America was in the 1980s. Race relations between blacks and whites was still coming together, and it was still kind of strained, especially coming from the 70s and the 60s. And to understand that concept, that $17 million it generated at the US box office, is absolutely ridiculous. It just highlights the racism and divisiveness of the country, even when Reagan was president of the United States. So overall, that movie Soul Man, I don't think I'll ever see the movie. Maybe one day I'll watch it to see it in full, but honestly, thinking and looking at it, it's not something I would recommend to my audience to watch. It was an extremely racist movie, and even though they try to say white people are stupid, try to make white people stupid, like they can't be black, they don't understand what it means to be black. They could have done it in a different way, instead of wearing blackface, because blackface was and still is a sensitive topic in America to this day. So overall, this movie is definitely a no-see. I would say that to the audience. It's definitely not aged well, and it's something that shouldn't really be looked at. I don't know what this guy is talking about in terms of, oh, I'm proud of this movie, and Miss Chung says she's proud of this movie. Let's be honest, movie was terrible from the trailers. It was grossly offensive. So, without further ado, I give this movie a total thumbs down, and for being racist and insensitive to the black culture. Thank you for listening to this episode of this podcast by BKJMAC TV. Keeping you guys informed, always on time. Thank you. Peace, love, always one.